As I was thinking about this man Bartimaeus, my heart was just kind of broken open for him. Just hearing these words, a blind man, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. We don't know someone's story. We don't know his whole story, but I just encourage you to imagine this is a man who, in Scripture says, is the son of someone else. He's a child. He belonged to a family at one time. Why is he begging? Where is his family? And how did he become blind? We're used to the story in John about the man who was born blind. But could this man have one time have seen? And maybe was working, maybe experienced the smiles of his children, of his spouse. But maybe something happened along the way. A wound happened, maybe with his eyes, maybe a sickness. And I just started thinking about someone who's losing sight, how painful that could be. Someone losing sight, seeing their children, seeing the ones that they love, and saying, I don't even remember what your face looks like. And when you are blind in the world of the Bible, the only people that can take care of you are your family. What happened to his family? Did they die? Did he move away and then get stuck and kind of cycle down into poverty? Did something happen while he was away? There's so many different questions that kind of popped in my own heart. But needless to say, this man doesn't have any support. And because he's blind, society says he's useless. And all he can do is sit by the roadside begging. He's sitting by the roadside in Jericho. Jericho is the city that had the walls that blocked the people of Israel from coming into the promised land. Jericho is the city that had to be toppled in order for the desire of the people's heart to be fulfilled. They're on this journey. Their heart is yearning for the promised land, and there's something that's getting in the way of them experiencing the fulfillment of their desire. And this man, who's begging, who's crying out to someone, is stuck. Maybe that wall of Jericho is actually in his eyes right now. And he can't see who he is. He can't see what his life is about. He can't see this longing in his heart that's crying out for something more. And there's a block there. There's the unfulfilled desire. And what do the people say that as he cries out, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me? He's crying out somewhere, help me. I know there's something more in my heart. My heart was made for something that's greater, and yet I'm not finding it. Help me. And it says, many rebuked him. They told him to be silent. Think about in our own culture, when our desire deep within our heart of wanting something more, this desire that goes beyond this world, beyond this cosmos, and it can only be fulfilled by the very heart of Christ. And when that is awakened in our heart, what does our world say? Well, that's not really it. You just need another toy. Yeah, the PlayStation 25 or whatever wasn't working for you. You thought that was the thing that was going to satisfy you. Well, here's the 26.Z. This will satisfy your heart. Or this new phone. Or this new app. Or this new thing to kind of numb the desire. I don't know if you've ever seen or read the book The Giver. it actually deals with this whole thing. It's like, well, take, and 1984 is another one. And I mean, there's so many of these ones where they talk about there's this desire, there's something in the heart. And it's like, well, just take this pill and you just numb that so that you don't have to feel anymore. And yet the desire is there. And the people around, the voices of his culture are saying, be silent. Don't think about that. Here's another cookie. But he doesn't buy that. It just says he kept calling out all the more. He just says, Son of David, have pity on me. And Jesus stops and says, call him. That word call, when we say church, the ancient way of saying church is ecclesia. It's Greek. And actually in Spanish, it's actually closer to this original, iglesia. And it means to be called into a family. That someone calls out to you saying, I want you to be a part of this special family, this community, this people. And so when Jesus is stopping and calling him, he's saying, I want you to be family. I'm calling you. Even though maybe your own family abandoned you, maybe your own family isn't there, you're by yourself, you're begging, you're crying out for something, and I'm that something. And I'm the one that will show you that you are loved, that you are lovable, and that I affirm your goodness. Come. And then it says, so they called the blind man. Now, I was thinking about, okay, are these the same voices? I mean, perhaps, but maybe you can think of it in a different way. You have this one ring of voices saying, be silent, don't think about that desire, have another cookie, have all these different things, and that'll make you happy. And it's like an earthquake underneath. I mean, we can see this with our young people. Why is there so much of this, like, just nihilism, despair, meaninglessness? And we say, well, we just need to put more stuff on. It's like it's not working. It's like a volcano. So that's that first ring of voices that says, stifle the desire with something else. But there's another group of voices. These are the voices of the saints saying, take courage. That desire that's on your heart, he's calling you. Jesus is calling you. They put a name to him. And it's a good thing for us to think about, to say, what kind of voice are we? Are we the voice that continues saying, have a cookie? Or are we a voice that says, the answer to your heart's longing is actually found in someone who is beyond this world, who broke into this world and wants communion with you. And his name is Jesus. That's what it means to be on mission, is to live your life in which your life becomes a very sign that says there's more to this life, and the only answer to the longing in your heart is Jesus Christ. And St. John Paul II, whose feast day we celebrated on Friday, would say this in his first homily. He said, open wide the doors of your heart to Christ. Let Christ speak to man. He alone has the answer to life's longing. He's the only one. And those of you who have felt this deep in your heart, and maybe you've reached out for different things, you know how they don't really satisfy the deep longing. Only Jesus does. And so we have to live out that voice and to be the ones that say, take courage. Jesus is calling you. The man then, it says he throws aside his cloak. He springs up. He comes to Jesus. So what is this cloak? I want you to think about it maybe in this way. Have you ever been outside on a very cold night? Or maybe perhaps you're outside, I see some of you out there right now, on a rather cold and gloomy day. And imagine you're wrapped up in a big giant blanket. And your tea kettle is going off on the other side of the kitchen. And there's no one else there. And that tea kettle doesn't turn itself off. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. And you know that you need to get over there, but doesn't the blanket become like a trap? It's so nice to be here. I can't move because I'm wrapped up in this thing that makes me comfortable. But if you don't get up, that tea kettle is going to blow up or something like that if it just keeps going on for hours and hours. There's something crying out, saying, this is what your heart is looking for, and we wrap ourselves in a blanket saying, actually, I'm comfortable right now. And if I take this off, I'm going to feel the chill. And so what is maybe that blanket that you're holding on to? It's another wall of Jericho. It's something that's getting in the way of seeing something more marvelous to this world. And it's the thing that keeps us on the surface level. It's the cookie. It's the thing that says, in the moment when our heart starts being awakened to something more, there's an instantaneous, we'll take this. And I felt this actually when I was on retreat this particular week. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you see something beautiful in creation and you feel the sense of, okay, I can't stay here right now because I got things to do, I got places to go, I got people to see. And yet, isn't it funny when you don't have anywhere to go, you still think that thought? And that's what was happening. I saw this tree consumed with birds that were singing. And they were like whirling around. And my heart was being drawn to them. But then there was something that triggered my mind to say, okay, you've had enough of that. Keep going on to the next thing. You have to do something else. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can't really enjoy this right now. I have to go to the next thing. And I'm like, wait, I don't have anything to go to. I'm on a whole week where I'm just sitting and praying. And yet I was fighting with that. And I was like, well, I have to do things. I have to go. I have to go. I have to go. And I started to say, well, what's going on there? And I started to realize that there was this feeling of being afraid of stopping, afraid of listening. Even, I would say, being ashamed of taking time to enjoy the gift of God's creation. Because there was something that was put in my mind saying, in order for me to just keep being productive, I have to keep moving, I have to do stuff in order to have happiness. And if I stop, I'm going to be bored. If I stop, then I'm going to miss something else. And I had to stop in that moment and say, in the name of Jesus, I renounce this spirit of feeling ashamed of entering in and stopping and slowing down. And I felt like there was this breeze that kind of went away. And I was able to look for 15 minutes just in awe of this moment. And I felt like the birds actually like surrounded me in my heart and were singing the song to heaven. That's the extra second that maybe wraps you up in a cloak. And you need that extra second in order for God to speak to you, in order for you to see. Because a lot of times, in the moment that our eyes are being opened, there's something, and it could be the world, flesh, and devil, that say, close your eyes, move to the next thing. Doesn't this happen sometimes in conversations? We don't take the extra second to be present to the person in front of us. We don't take the extra second when we're here at Mass and the Lord has come into us and we're like, okay, next thing. And whether we do it physically, we do it mentally in our heart. And so what's the extra second that the Lord is calling you to? What's the cloak that you're kind of covered in right now? And it's getting in the way of running to Jesus to really see. God has a mysterious, beautiful adventure for you. And he doesn't want you to stay at the surface level. He made a God-given desire in your heart that can only be quenched by the infinite. So have the courage to stop. Take the extra second as you throw off that cloak And in that moment of stop, walk to Jesus.